What's going on, Raptors fans? Toronto Hoop Talk checking in today after a 10-point loss to the Bulls in Summer League. And don't let the margin fool you. That game was not close. The Raptors were down 30 for basically the whole second half until they made like a fake comeback towards the end to close the lead to 10. Just like the real Raptors do a lot, the Summer League Raptors made a fake comeback too. Now, I'm going to be honest, for most of that second half where it wasn't really a game, I was zoning out. Like, it was a hard game to pay attention to. So I'm going to take a bit of a different approach to this video. Instead of going through each of the players that I've highlighted in my previews and in my last recap, I'm going to try to just run through the ones that I don't think I have a whole lot to say about and keep the majority of the time for this video to Delano Benton and Christian Koloko. We're going to start with David Johnson, another unremarkable game, another game where I don't quite understand what his game is like, and another game where I'm left to think, is he going to get anything more than an Exhibit 10 deal to have him in training camp and then in the G League for the rest of the year? It was announced that Justin Champagnie is going to miss the remainder of Summer League because of that hand injury, and that sucks because this team could use him. This team is not very good, and two, it would have been great to see if his game has changed because he still doesn't have a contract, and the Raptors still have to make a contract decision whether he gets a guaranteed deal, whether he gets an Exhibit 10 deal, whether he gets a two-way deal. Not getting a chance to see his game before making that decision, that just sucks. On to DJ Wilson, he had a couple threes, which was nice to see, but the rest of his game, honestly, more of the same. Pretty unremarkable in a lot of ways. I saw him make some team defense errors. There was one really bad one, I thought, at the end of the third, where Armani Brooks got beat on the perimeter, and he was in the paint area, and I'm thinking, okay, big DJ Wilson, time to contest a shot, and he rotates out to the perimeter, literally like vacating the paint for the driver. Yeah, I don't know where I stand on DJ Wilson. On to Ron Harper Jr. Ron Harper Jr. had a fairly unremarkable game. Not too many takeaways. Like, he kind of just doesn't have an impact on these games. And he's on a two-way deal. And from my understanding, on the two-way deals, you're allowed to spend 50 days in the NBA and the remainder of the season in the G League. I think it's safe to say this guy will spend maybe 10 days in the NBA and probably spend the whole year in the G League, and that's what he needs. Definitely still a developmental player that's not close to establishing that he has an NBA game yet. On to Armani Brooks. He definitely had a couple Armani Brooks moments, hit a couple threes, but aside from that, definitely a step back in terms of performance compared to the last game. Unfortunately, he wasn't on the court while the Raptors started the game, where the Raptors actually were pretty good, but most of his minutes came in the context of the team just getting smacked around. So that wasn't good to see, and hopefully the next game we see more of a game one Armani. On to Jeff Dowtin. Now, Jeff Dowtin had a similar game to game one in that he had his moments where he showed that he's an interesting player. He has burst. He gets past his man on the perimeter at a fairly decent rate. He can hit a shot or two. He can run the offense as a on-the-ball guard. Like, fairly reassuring game for Jeff Dowtin in that, yeah, he's worth a training camp shot. On to the two guys that I think I want to spend some more time talking about. First, Delano Benton. Now, Delano had an unreal start. He started the game by banking a three initially, and who knows if he tried that? Probably not. He hit another three right after that. He got a steal, got out in transition, got the and one. A very good start from Delano. There was another possession where he got a deflection, forced the turnover. I think the ball ended up in Ron Harper Jr.'s hands, and in transition, he was like clapping really aggressively to get the ball from Ron Harper Jr., and I forget exactly how the possession ended, but he either got a good look at the basket or he got one of his teammates a good look at the basket. Now, obviously, the good game didn't continue, but honestly, Delano Benton's game drifted into the rest of the Raptors' game by the time Chicago really started dominating. Like, there were some turnovers, there was some sloppy play, kind of falls in line with some of the sloppy moments he had in game one, but I can't stress enough how impressive the very beginning of the game was for Delano. With Delano Benton, I highlighted in my previews that perimeter shooting is what I was going to look at as a point of emphasis for his game, and so far in Summer League, I'm fairly happy with his three-point shooting. He was 3 for 5 today. His three makes, I don't think any of them were like really easy, soft catch and shoot looks that are just the ideal situation to get a three off from. He was shooting off the dribble for one of them, I think. He was shooting the other one of the other ones was contested. Like, so far in Delano's Summer League, I'm happy with his perimeter shooting. You just really hope that some of this translates to the NBA. On to Christian Koloko. So I can't lie, this wasn't a good game for him. Definitely a step back from his game one performance. But what I will say is I don't think my mind changed a whole lot in terms of his game. I think the good things in his game and the encouraging things from game one, they still showed up in game two. They just showed up less. And the bad things and the discouraging parts of his game from game one, they also turned up in game two, just at a much higher rate. I don't know exactly what the reason is, whether that's, Chicago somehow knew to pick out what his weaknesses were, or if this is more of a situation of the whole game was bad. Everything around him was bad. So in a way, it put him in a worse position. So you saw more of the bad things. But I don't think a whole lot changed. The upside of his game is that he changes shots at the rim and he's fairly mobile, and you still saw that today. The upside of his game is also that his shot doesn't look broken and he seems like he can hit some shots. He hit a 3 today. He didn't shoot particularly well, but his shooting fundamentals look okay, and he had the guts to shoot a 3 today, and he made one. One of the downsides of his game is that he's not strong and he's not aggressive, and I'm going to put those two things together because they're tied. He knows he lacks the strength. He knows he can't be physical with guys because he'll probably lose the battle in terms of strength, so he tends to shy away from it. That lack of strength and aggression was there in game 1. It's still here in game 2. One of the other downsides of his game is that he's young and he hasn't played basketball for a long time, so he's going to make a lot of mistakes due to inexperience, and he did that again in this game. There's a general tentativeness in his game. He plays like he's not sure of himself, but again, all these things that I mentioned that are downsides, I think are things that'll change with time. He's going to put on weight. He's going to get stronger. That's going to allow him to feel stronger and act stronger because he knows he'll win some of these physical battles. He's going to gain experience and get smarter in terms of playing basketball. That's something we've seen with Boucher. We've seen with Siakam. That'll happen with Koloko as well. And he'll generally just gain polish to his game. His jumper will get better. These are all things that I felt after game 1, and I still feel after game 2. I just saw more of the bad things. So as a whole, yes, he didn't have a good game, and it was rough to watch, but it doesn't change my assessment of him, and I'm still happy with what we have in Koloko, and I think that at some point he will develop into a player that we get a solid 20 minutes out of. Whether that happens this year or next year, I'm not really sure, but I'm not concerned with the fact that we have Christian Koloko right now. I'd like to remind everyone that this is the franchise that turned Bismack Biyombo into an $80 million man. I mentioned this on Twitter during the game, that role of a center where your job is to be around the basket on both ends of the court. Your job is to protect the basket defensively, finish stuff around the rim offensively. That's not a complicated role. You don't have to be a multifaceted player with all these different skills and this massive just bag of tricks. It's not what you need to be. You need to get the basics of what you do down and get them right. And that's fine, provided that the rest of the players on the court are the skillful players, the players that handle the scoring, playmaking, all those things. If he's gonna be a Bismack Biyombo with some mobility, that's still really useful. And I think that if he has a chance to be that kind of player, I don't think any of us should be complaining. So that's where things stand for me. If I missed anything that you guys may have picked up on, make sure you put it in the comments. Make sure you find me on all socials. I live tweeted during the game again. Had a lot of fun with the timeline. Make sure you guys check this channel out. Check all my socials out for tomorrow's game because I'll be at it again. I think the game is tomorrow. If it's not tomorrow, it's the day after. So yeah, the game sucked, but it's always fun interacting with the Raptors community. Always good to have Raptors basketball on. And here's to a better game tomorrow. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comments, and find me on all socials at TorontoHoopTalk.